Whole number subtraction. To subtract, we will line up the place values and work from right to left. Let's look at the first example. So example 1. Victoria is a labor and delivery nurse. On one shift she worked, there were 9 babies born. If 6 were born in the first half of her shift, how many babies were born during the second half of her shift? So for this problem, we're going to need to subtract. We know that we start out with a total of 9 babies being born, and 6 were during the first half of her shift. So we need to subtract 9 minus 6 in order to get the remaining babies that were born during the second half of the shift. So 9 minus 6 is equal to 3. Now, we can also look at this on a number line. So if you weren't quite sure, if we needed to go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we know we started at 9. And then we need to go over 6. So in order to go over 6, we can start here. We can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we end up at the 3. So in order to go over 6, which are full units, so this is 1 full unit, the 2, continue on. So we did 6, and we get to the number 3. So we know we did the first way we solved. Correct. Now let's do another example. Example 2. It is roughly 95 miles from Moses Lake to Spokane. Nancy has driven 43 miles. How many more miles does she have left of her drive? So for this problem, to set it up, we're going to line up the place values. We're going to put the larger number on the top. So we have 95 minus 43. So this is how we're going to go from the right-hand side. So we go 5 minus 3. So 5 minus 3 is equal to 2. Now we move to the left. We have 9 minus 4, which is equal to 5. So Nancy has 52 miles left of the whole drive. Use the math trick for this one. So does our answer make sense? This is a really good way to check ourselves to make sure we got a number that probably is reasonable. So when we do our math trick that we learn, by estimating our numbers, like by rounding, then we can do a quick, simple subtraction or addition, and then we can check our answers. So for this one, we're doing subtraction. So when we look at our numbers, we have 95 and 43. Well, 95 and 43. Well, both numbers, 5 and 3, are really close together. So if we just rounded both of them down to the nearest 10, that would account for the ones place being subtracted. So we can make this 95 into 90, and then the 43 into 40. So once again, the reason we did this is the 5 and the 3 are pretty close together, right? They're only separated by one number. And so if we just round them both down, then it kind of accounts for that subtraction. Then we just do this really quick, simple thing of 90 minus 40. So 9 minus 4, which is the 5. So we know it's 50 because 0 minus 0 is 0. So we can see this 50 is really close to this 52. So it does make sense. And this is something we kind of start working in our heads when we kind of check our answers. And so it's just a quick, simple check to make sure we're on the right path. Example 3. The cost to replace a transmission is $4,500. If there is a $375 discount, what would the final cost be before tax? So we have the cost of $4,500. Now we need to line up our place values. Now we're going to put the 5 in the 1 spot, the 7 in the tens, and then the 3 in the hundreds. So we lined it up. Notice we don't have a thousands for the second number, and that's okay. We can just leave it as is. Now we go ahead and start to subtract. We look at the 0 minus 5, which we notice we can't actually do that because you can't take away 5 from nothing. So we need to go ahead and borrow. And what we do when we look to borrow is we're looking over to the left, and we also see that this is a 0, so we can't borrow any numbers. So we have to go all the way to the 5 to then borrow. So how we borrow is we take this 5, we subtract 1 from it, so then we get 4. And essentially what that means is we're borrowing a whole 100. And if we borrow a whole 100, that means we're going to go ahead and place it in the 10 spot. And now instead of 0, we have 10 tens, which 10 tens is 100. So we didn't change anything. We just moved the numbers in order for us to subtract. Now, we need this 10, though. We need to borrow a whole 10 into the 1 spot. So 10 minus 1 is then 9. And we go ahead and borrow a whole 10, because that's what that means. So we have a 10 here now. So we have 10 ones. So 10 minus 5 is 5. And then 9 minus 7 is 2. 4 minus 3 is 1. And then 4 minus nothing, which is just then 4. We can just bring it down. So the final cost before tax is $4,125.